You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the weekly Keep Canada Weird discussion series. If you're new here in Keep Canada Weird, my pal Handsome Aaron Airport and I seek out and explore the more offbeat Canadian news stories from the past week. In tonight's episode, which was recorded during the evening of June 7th, 2022, we put Tim Hortons' new Biebs Brew on trial. We discuss 3 new Canadian laws, and we shake our fists at Randy Vogel, the not at all empathetic realtor. So let's get into it. Handsome Aaron Airport, how are you doing?
Oh, good, my friend. How are you?
Do you want to know the truth? Should I be honest?
I wouldn't be doing this show if I didn't think you weren't being honest 100% of the time.
Okay. Well, I'm doing good now, but I'm actually just coming out of the woods. If you follow my podcast closely, you'll notice that I've been quiet for about a week, and it all stems to a nasty head cold that one of my children brought into the home. Last week was kind of crazy. One of my kids was boogery and sneezy and up all night sneezing and boogering. To help him sleep, I slept in bed with him and comforted him. Turned out that was probably not a great idea because I've spent the last 5 days with the man cold to kill a man. And I'm now I think in terms of recuperating from a head cold and stuff, I think in terms of percentage, and I would say I'm now at about 90% my normal me. So if you ask how I'm doing pretty good. I'm feeling pretty lucky that I'm here tonight. I've canceled streams days and recording sessions days before this, but I'm back on my sea legs and happy to be back with you because this is a big night.
Oh, this is a big night. Yeah, no, we've got big things for this big night.
Yeah, this I think we decided last week this is the mid-season premiere.
Finale? No, mid-season finale. Every episode is the mid-season finale.
Yeah, and this is certainly a mid-season finale. It is June 7th, which is, I guess a lot of people are going to look at Canadian history as before and after June 6th. So we're now living in a post-June 6th world. The big thing about June 6th was the launch of...
Oh, you're waiting for me to say.
You thought it froze?
No, I just thought you were going to keep talking. You're like, June 6th is the launch of...
The launch of...
The Biebs Brew.
Yeah, and I think that we got to start with that because listeners from coast to coast of Canada are waiting to hear our review of the Biebs Brew. We said last week we were going to try it, and we both did. And I think the way we're going to present this, we won't talk about it just yet. The way we're going to present this is a sort of Keep Canada Weird Film Festival, I guess is what's about to happen here. Because I recorded my experiences on video. Mm-hmm. You recorded yours on video. I haven't seen yours. You haven't seen mine. The listeners and viewers haven't seen either. So I think the best way to explore this is just go film by film and then talk it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I consider mine to be more of an indie film versus where I assume that yours has more production value. Maybe some editing, maybe a little sprinkle here and there, some bedazzling.
There is. I captured a scene where as I'm talking, my hand reaches and opens the door of the Tim Hortons as I enter it. And I find that's a really cool little shot to have in a film.
Yeah.
Mine is still indie though. There's no one's involved.
Well, listen, I mean, we're just in comparison of the two films, I would say yours is more of a Hollywood blockbuster, whereas mine is more of a raw, gritty, independent,
an art house.
An art house film, yeah.
Yeah, mine is
that's
indie.
That's how I would. No. We're only comparing the two. You can't say yours is of the indie style when yours has editing and has production value to it, whereas mine doesn't. So
Okay.
mine is the independent film. Yours is the slick Hollywood blockbuster.
Well, let's see if that's
Both are
true.
fine, both are fine, presentations. It's not which one's better or worse. It's just that's what we're dealing with here is two different styles. So
To go first, why don't we do rock, paper, scissors?
yeah, sure, okay.
So we'll do
but
one.
let's decide rock, paper, scissors, and then on match.
Well, I would say shoot, rock, paper, scissors, shoot, and then you display your pick, and it's just like the best 1 out of 1, no 2 out of 3 or anything.
Sure, unless I lose, then I'll debate myself into maybe.
And whoever wins, the other person goes first, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
loser goes first. All right, let's do this.
Loser goes first. Okay.
Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh, I win. I got rock.
Okay. All right. We're good.
Yeah.
So let me go first.
Okay.
Here we go. I call this film My Biebs Brew Review.
Hey everybody, it's June 6th. You know what that means? Today's the day. Tim Hortons and Bieber are dropping the new Biebs Brew, which I've learned today is a cold brew coffee. So not a hot coffee, it's something cold, but I'm on my way right now to a Tim Hortons that's in a gas station, and I'm gonna order it. And if they don't have it, I am gonna freak out. Let's go get some. Can I get one of the Biebs Brew, like the new coffee? So I got one of these things here. My camera kind of messed up as I was ordering, but that was quite the spectacle. So they made it for me. It's expensive. I think it was almost $3, I think, for a small one. But I don't even know if I can drink it because I don't. I did some Googling. In a small one of these is, I think, just under 15 grams of sugar. I only eat 20 grams of sugar a day, so I'm not going to drink all this. I'm just going to have a sip to taste it. Here goes nothing. Meh. So it tastes like cold coffee with a bunch of cream in it. To me. I don't know if Justin Bieber drinks this. We'll see if we see him carrying one around. This, I don't think Justin would keep his physique if he drank more than one of these every few days. This to me tastes like, maybe like coffee flavored ice cream that melted and is unsweetened. That's how I would describe this. It's supposed to be French vanilla. I don't taste a lot of vanilla in my Biebs Brew. Anyway, would I recommend this? No. Definitely not.
Do we get a standing ovation from you, Aaron, for that film? We won't get into your thoughts on it yet, but do you want to ask me any questions about my experience?
What happened when the camera stopped filming?
Oh, it was so stupid of me. So I was filming the cashier as she rang me through, and I accidentally like pressed one of the buttons on the phone that like stopped the recording. So I had like the first minute, like second of me asking her for the Biebs Brew, and then the whole exchange where she didn't know what I was talking about, and another employee explained that the French vanilla is the Biebs Brew. As that was happening, I managed to turn on my recording again. So there's like that key moment was missing, and I'm so upset about that because again, like it's such a big thing nationally and in the news and just among the public and Justin Bieber's fans, this new coffee, that an employee with the Biebs Brew shirt on had no idea what I was talking about. But yeah, all I could stomach was one sip of it. I took probably 2 sips of it, and I could taste it in my mouth all day. It was, I give it a very nasty review, but we'll talk about it more in a second. Let's get to your.
All right,
film.
let's do it. Okay, everyone, I am just heading in to order my Justin Bieber coffee drink. Can't even remember what the thing is called here. Biebs Brew or whatever it is. So I should have a good time trying to order this. Hi, can I get, what is it called? The Biebs Brew? What's the new?
Depends when you have Biebs Brew.
Yeah.
Yeah. What size?
Medium.
Okay, anything else? Yes, I just try about.
Thank you. Driving up to get it.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
MasterCard?
Alright. All good.
Thank
Need a
you.
shot?
Yes, please.
Alright.
Have you tried the new Biebs drink?
I tried the shot that goes in it. It's very, very strong.
It's strong,
I
is
can't
it?
really taste the French part. Because it's so.
It doesn't taste French at all to you?
Well, I mean, like the French part's supposed to kind of be like a toffee taste, but it's
Oh,
not really.
it's
it
not.
Just tastes like really strong vanilla.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for the heads up. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, you heard it there from the employee at Tim Hortons that I'm getting this through. Just stated that it just tastes like really strong coffee and it doesn't really taste like the flavor it's supposed to. So that's interesting. So I'm putting my straw in right now. So here's my drink. So I'm driving, so I'm gonna kind of get on the road first before I have a sip. Make sure I'm safe while I do this, because if the taste completely blows my mind, I might run off the road. So, okay, here we go. I'm going to sample the Biebs drink for the very first time. Yeah. It just tastes like coffee. I don't know. It's just whatever, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't taste like how I think Justin Bieber would taste, that's for sure. So for that reason, I give it a thumbs down. And that is my review of Justin Bieber's stupid drink from stupid Tim Hortons.
That was an amazing production for that video. I think the big moment there was, like, yeah, it was a cool, like, kind of indie art house film, but there was some good journalism going on there, because you got the employee of Tim Hortons to basically crap on the product before he passed it to you.
Yeah. I was kind of wondering how it was going to play out, because I didn't want to ask the person taking my order, because it would have been inaudible through the,
It's hard to
communicate through that. So I'm like, I'll ask the person at the window what they think of the new drink. So yeah, he gave me his honest opinion on it. He said it doesn't taste French at all.
I can't imagine Justin Bieber drinks many of those things. The guy's in amazing shape. That thing was like the creamiest. Like,
oh, it's awful for you, whatever it is. Like it's.
Yeah, so you might as well get a Big Mac or something. It's like I would, if you could compare the calories. I don't know how many calories are in it, but I'm sure it's you don't get that, and then as you're walking out of the gym. Or something.
I'm sure he sampled it as part of his contract and then threw it in the garbage and moved on with his life and cashed his check.
I couldn't finish mine. How much of it? How far? I had 2 sips.
The 2 sips that you saw is all I had.
Okay, same. Yeah, I dumped it and went home and made like an actual coffee.
Yeah. I it's still sitting in my car in the cup holder.
Okay.
Completely full.
Disgusting. So Tim,
so it'll be there tomorrow. My car is going to reek like Justin Bieber when I get in the car tomorrow morning.
So Tim's did good with their first dance with Justin Bieber. Generally, the second time is not a charm when it comes to like marketing. Think this is gonna flop, or just be a nothing?
I'm sure it'll do okay, and people will order it, and if they keep plastering it on the screens at the order screen, like people will get it.
Like the sheep who roll in there.
Yeah,
the Justin Bieber
order
loving
this,
sheep.
you sheep. Bieber drink.
Well, that's behind us now. Hopefully we never have to talk about Tim Hortons or Justin Bieber or the two of them combined again, and we can focus.
But we will.
Probably. But now we can focus specifically on keeping Canada weird. And we got a full card here. We have 3 stories that all relate to our legal system. I think I titled it "The Long Reach of the Long Arm of Canadian Law." It's 3 new laws or changes to existing laws that are in the process of being passed that we're going to talk about, and they're all a little weird and unique. We are going to talk about the least empathetic real estate agent I've ever heard of.
Yes.
And we are going to talk, actually, I have a crime, actually, and then I have a crime story that we may fit in at the end. But I think we should start with the Canadian legal system changes that are a little weird. Or do you want to get into this empathetic arsehole?
Let's get right into the arsehole.
Okay. This is a rough one. Canadians are known to be, nice and apologetic and thoughtful. Well, not all Canadians, as you will, as you're about to hear. The person in this story is a real estate agent named Randy Vogel. He does not embody the Canadian kindness. So this is kind of a 2-part story that I'm going to tell you. It begins in the Vancouver area. There was a missing woman named Chelsea Porman, a missing Indigenous woman, a 24-year-old Indigenous woman. She was found dead outside a vacant home in I'm going to get the name wrong of this neighborhood. It's Shaughnessy neighborhood, I believe is how it's.
I couldn't tell.
I believe how it's pronounced. It's a area in the area of Vancouver. So anyway, this is Chelsea's disappearance and her being found dead. A lot of people believe foul play may be suspected, although police have said they're not suspecting foul play. But that's kind of beside the point, because what has happened is there is posters all over Vancouver with Chelsea's face and her story and a plea for information on, what may have happened to her. So we've all seen situations where these posters are all over the place in a city, and we understand the need for those. Well, not everybody understands the need for them, because in Vancouver, these posters, specifically posters about Chelsea's disappearance and the plea for information, were being torn off of poles around the city. I say this is a 2-part story because the first article I'm going to skim from is just simply covering the situation with these posters being torn down, and then I'm going to give the update.
We're only asking for help, right? So why should it really bother people for us to put up a poster? There's no harm in it.
Signs pleading for information about Chelsea Porman pulled down during a rally and march in Shaughnessy, the neighborhood where her body was found. The event was held Saturday as mother Sheila Porman and others continue to push for answers about what happened to Chelsea. Saz Lambert says her friends who took this video confronted a couple who were tearing away posters.
I felt so angry and disgusted hearing that. She cares more about a pole than an actual human, an actual life. We're looking for justice for Chelsea.
It's not vandalism.
In a separate incident, Battered Women's Support Services says a staff member recorded this man also tearing down posters.
And we saw a kind of very aggressive behavior that was directed at making Chelsea's experience invisible.
Even though we glued them really well, somebody went out of the way to tear her face and the information off. And I actually called the police and I said, hey, you need to check these cameras. Somebody is going out of their way to do this.
City News searched through Shaughnessy Monday and could not find one poster. The sign lists contact information for anyone who might have tips. And while Sheila waits for answers, she's also focusing on how to live without Chelsea.
We did find her, but not the way that we wanted.
Well, one of the people who appeared in these videos tearing down posters was not long after identified, shamed, called out, and fired from his job. So here's where I'm going to get into it. The headline of the article that I'll read is called "Vancouver Realtor Fired After Ripping Down Chelsea Porman Posters."
And an update tonight to a story we brought you on Monday. one of the people caught on video appearing to tear down posters asking for help in the Chelsea poor man investigation has been fired. In a statement, McDonald Realty says, as an organization, we are in full support of Chelsea poor man's family and friends as they search for answers and justice. We do not condone any inappropriate actions taken by any member of our community, and in this instance, we took immediate action and they are no longer with our organization. Multiple videos have surfaced on social media of people tearing down the posters in Shaughnessy, where poor man's body was found behind a vacant home in April.
So I'll kind of end it there, but we get the point. Is this guy gets shamed? Somebody goes to his employer, rightfully so. Very swiftly, he loses his job. And I'll give you some updates. In making the art for this episode, I was trying to find a photo of this guy. His any mention of him on the internet has been scrubbed. So his ex-employer, like the pages that are about him, are gone. His Twitter account, I know it existed. It is now gone. And he had a website where he was advertising his services and giving, advice on home ownership. Even the website is down. And if I wanted to take my website down, I wouldn't even know where to start to make that happen. This guy got it done in a couple days. I managed to find a couple photos of him, and he doesn't look like as much of a prick as he is. But why would this guy do this? What do you think?
Well, if he's, my theory when I was reading the article was that as a realtor, he doesn't want potential clients seeing those posters because he doesn't want them to think
it's a rough neighborhood.
That there are issues like that going on in the neighborhood. He wants the neighborhood to look pristine and not have any of the scars that a neighborhood could have, and these types of stories. So that's how I thought it. Maybe it's just down to he hates posters on poles, any kind of poster.
Well, what you said was my exact theory as well, is that maybe he wanted to just get them off of the street where, someone was coming to view a house that he was listing. I couldn't figure out if if he was representing any listings on that street or in that immediate area. It would be really interesting to know if that was what it was. I can't imagine any other motivation, but if that was his motivation, for one, it's awful and selfish and self-centered, but it also shows that this person shouldn't be dealing with real estate.
No, as a real estate agent, you're a public figure. Your face is on billboards and benches and all that type, and you're involved in the community. You're selling homes in that community. So you're a public fixture of the neighborhood. And if you're ripping down posters like this where a family is trying to figure out what happened to a loved one, it's awful.
And then I also think, what else are you going to hide? If this guy's selling houses and he's willing to hide the fact that there's a family fighting for answers for a missing person or a suspicious death in the area, you think this guy's going to tell you the truth about the problem the furnace has or something in the basement. I'm just 100% screw this guy. The idea of
100%, drown in a Biebs Brew.
Good callback. That's what he deserves. And he should sit with some Biebs Brew and just think about this. And it's heartbreaking for her family. Imagine just you spend the time printing off these posters, having them put out. You have advocates who found you online that are fighting to, support you and help you get answers. And then you got this prick of a real estate agent who's just walking down the street while someone's walking behind him, filming him, questioning him. And he's really kind of aggressive about it. He's just, they're walking behind him being like, why are you tearing them down? What are you doing? He's not saying anything. He's just pulling them off the pole. It's just like, buddy, you suck. I wonder if this guy, if it was a missing cat instead of a 24-year-old Indigenous woman, I wonder if he'd tear the cat posters down.
No, I don't think he would, because a missing cat poster is, it's probably, hey, look at all the nice families that live in this neighborhood that you could buy a house in, and they're missing their cat, and look, it's It's with someone like this who's a giant sack of human garbage, is probably, thinking that a missing cat poster is going to signify that there are families. This is a family neighborhood.
Yeah.
But this guy, what's the irony is that what he's doing is he's making the neighborhood look worse, because now he's drawing all this attention to this neighborhood, that there are, brutal, jerks that live here that are insensitive, and maybe I don't want to buy a house in a neighborhood where this guy lives.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, well, we'll follow that for updates. I have a feeling this guy has crawled back into his hole, and Chelsea Poorman's family will continue to search for answers, and their supporters and advocates will continue to fight for them, despite a few moron, self-centered losers trying to get in the way of that. I don't like stories that make me mad, and that one does.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on.
Yeah.
Now we got something interesting and certainly weird. So much of what makes Canada Canada is our government and our laws that, define how we live and play and everything else.
And play, yeah.
It does define that.
It does define, how you play. Don't play rough.
There's laws against that.
Cooperate.
Don't play too drunk.
Don't play too drunk. Yeah. Don't play around heavy machinery.
Yeah. Well, laws are ever changing. It's a very liquid, fluid situation. Some recent changes in laws have become newsworthy moments. I actually have 3 of them here, which is strange. I'm not that into like the legal world and politics and all this stuff, but these 3 changes caught my eye. I thought we'll go through them one by one. The first one I want to tell you about, and I never would have thought of this, is Canada needs to change the laws. Well, not even change the laws, add a law to to extend the territory that the laws apply to the moon and to space. Let me read you a little bit and explain this. So the headline is, Canadian astronauts are no longer free to rob and kill with abandon in space or on the moon. Buried deep within the legislation implementing Canada's 2022 federal budget is a criminal code amendment that would explicitly extend Canadian criminal jurisdiction to the cosmos. A Canadian crew member who, during a space flight, commits an act or omission outside Canada that, if committed in Canada, would constitute an indictable offence is deemed to have committed that act or omission in Canada, reads the measure included in Bill C-19. The 443-page document implementing the provisions of the 2022 federal budget. Basically, the amendment means that if a Canadian commits a criminal offense while in space, they'll be met by handcuffs when they land. It also means, presumably, that Canadians can currently murder and rob all they want, provided they do it in orbit. The technical lawlessness of space is a problem that has been identified by legal scholars for some time. The issue came to the forefront in 2019 when a U.S. astronaut serving aboard the International Space Station was accused of committing the history's first ever space crime. Astronaut Anne McLaren was accused by her estranged spouse, Summer Warden, of unlawfully using an International Space Station computer to access Warden's online bank records, which Warden contended was a form of identity theft. The allegations were subsequently found to be false, and Warden now stands accused of lying to U.S. investigators. So I'll end the article there. So that the story, there's almost 2 stories there. The story that made this notable seems like its own interesting thing, but I'll leave that to whoever hosts Keep the United States Weird. But I guess there's this whole thing about, like, here on Earth, this idea of, you go into international waters and it's just like the Wild West. Like if you travel, a certain distance offshore, you can get to an area where you could just do whatever the hell you want. And I guess I never thought that would extend to space, but I guess usually like the person who gets in a position to be on a rocket flying into space usually has kind of proven themselves to be like a noble, respectable person.
Yeah, but then you're going up into, like, if you're staying in the International Space Station, or, you're talking close quarters, isolation, and I mean, astronauts go through rigorous testing to make sure that they can handle those extreme situations. But, the recipe is there for someone to snap, I think, at some point in time.
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of sci-fi movies that someone snaps in space and kills a bunch of people. But also, I guess we've been talking about astronauts, but now it's becoming more and more common for, not common. It's happening more frequently that just like civilians, like rich people with money, can go on these kind of recreational cruises to space, and I can only assume in 15 years that'll be even more common. And oftentimes, like the laws are always playing catch up to new changes and new technology. So maybe this is Canada kind of just taking a big leap forward.
Well, getting ahead of it, because I know, if I were a wealthy man and I wanted to murder you, I would invite you as my friend to join me on my rocket ride to the moon. Right, as two civilians, a wealthy friend bringing his other friends on a trip to the moon that we've purchased, from Elon Musk or whoever. And you and I go up to the moon and I kill you. And then I come home a free man.
Yeah, and just like, there's no laws against that.
And I even tell people I killed him up there.
I filmed the whole
thing. There's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, I filmed it, and it's on I guess I wouldn't put it on the internet. Maybe that would be something.
Like a different law.
Yeah.
Unless you uploaded it,
and I say, "Where's Jordan? I killed him up there," and you can't do anything about it.
Well, I'm glad this law is passed then to prevent that from happening to me or someone like me by someone like you.
But I don't think it's passed yet. Like, I still have some time.
You're gonna offer me a ticket to space now.
Oh, you're gonna get an email later tonight, like, "Hey, guess what?"
Let's move on to our next change in law. This one I think is a little surprising, but it's a bit deeper of an issue than crime in space. I'm not sure. I wouldn't have known this unless I stumbled upon an article just the past few days that let me know that British Columbia is about to become the first province to remove criminal penalties for possession of some hard drugs. So it's not that they're legalizing hard drugs, but they're decriminalizing possession of small amounts. I'll tell you a bit about it. So British Columbia has become the first province to be granted an exemption under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act to remove criminal penalties for possession of some hard drugs. The 3-year exemption is for people who possess a small amount of certain illicit substances for personal use. The exemption will be in effect from January 31st, 2023 until January 31st, 2026, and throughout all of BC. Substance use is a public health issue, not a criminal one, the BC Minister of Mental Health and Addiction, Sheila Malscombe, said. By decriminalizing people who use drugs, we will break down the stigma that stops people from accessing life-saving support and services. The BC government will now work with the federal government, health authorities, law enforcement, people with lived and living experience, Indigenous partners, and community organizations to establish indicators and to establish outcomes. The exemption is not legalization. The substances will remain legal, but adults who have 2.5 grams or less of opioids, cocaine, methamphetamine, and MDMA for personal use will no longer be arrested, be charged, or have their drugs seized. Instead, police will offer information on available health and social supports and will help with referrals when requested. The shocking number of lives lost to the overdose crisis requires bold action and significant policy change. I have thoroughly reviewed and carefully considered both the public health and public safety impacts of this request, the federal minister said. BC is the only province to have formally requested this exemption from the federal government, and the exemption only covers adults 18 years and older. So it's on its surface, Like the idea of like you can have cocaine and crystal meth and this stuff on you, and the cops don't even take it away. On the surface, that's kind of shocking, but I think that that sounds like a really forward-thinking, solutions kind of oriented approach to this issue. And and people I think a lot of people don't realize how bad the drug and opioid and overdose crisis is in some parts of BC, specifically Vancouver. I've in covering a lot of missing persons cases on nighttime, so many of them involve street life in Vancouver and how it's just like a black hole that people can get sucked into there of drugs and crime and homelessness and just these huge social issues. And if you add on top of that the idea that the people who are living with that and dealing with that are arrested if they seek out help in some cases, that definitely just puts a huge issue in it all, that by decriminalizing it just for a period for a couple years to allow them to try to figure this stuff out, I think that makes sense. I support this.
Oh, I support it too, because, just arresting people and throwing them in jail is it's just the cycle, it just continues the cycle of, it doesn't add any long-term benefits to or solutions to this situation. Using drugs is going to be around forever. It's been around forever and it will be around forever. It will always be there. So just throwing people in jail for it hasn't done anything, and it's made it more dangerous than it could be. Having safe spaces, needle exchange situations, being able to get these drugs from like a drugstore, knowing that it's not going to be tainted with whatever kind of dangerous chemicals or substances that could be in these things. Yeah. So it's about saving lives, and it's about, going to the real issues here and taking away that stigma and allowing them to have more of a positive connection with healthcare providers and support systems. And I think it's great that they're moving in this direction.
And also the people that this will help are the type of people that it's there are so many people that are so deep in the throes of addiction and homelessness that it's not about arresting them and punishing them. It's way beyond that. So by removing that hurdle into getting them help, it makes sense. I think this is a good thing, and it's I like to hear government decisions that just make sense and seem that's a bold decision but a smart one, because that's not often the case. And in this case, in this situation, I like this law.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great move, and hopefully once BC does it, then the rest of the country hopefully will start to kind of come on board too.
Yeah.
Maybe seeing some positive results over a few years. It might be something down the road that other provinces will get on board with.
Yeah, in an as needed basis. I like the idea of having it this time sensitive thing, for this certain period of time. So what will be interesting to see is if they're actually going to be able to make a difference in a 3-year period and show kind of the payoff of this. And if it is a success, that certainly could be something that we see more of in the future.
Because the way they've been doing it hasn't been working.
No.
This whole war on drugs thing, it hasn't been working.
Yeah.
There's no winning a war on drugs. Drugs wins every time.
That's the spirit. And hail Satan. So far we've talked about 2 laws. I think the Canadian government is 2 for 2 as far as having good new laws.
Yeah, I like these 2 laws so far, changes. I think they're good.
Okay, well, let's see how they do with the third. This one, I will say I am a huge fan, and I think most people who've worked an office job will be. Ontario is about to become the first province to mandate policies on disconnecting from work. What does that mean? Let me tell you. This is a win-win for work-life balance. Not a win-win. This is a win for work-life balance. A new law is now in effect in Ontario that forces many companies to craft policies on employees disconnecting from work after hours. As of June 2nd, employers in Ontario with 25 or more employees must have a written policy with respect to disconnecting outside of business hours. The new law was part of the Ontario Progressive Conservatives Working for Workers Act, which was passed in late 2021, and it's the first law of its kind in Canada. Disconnecting from work means not engaging in work-related communications, including emails, telephone calls, video calls, or sending or reviewing or other messages, so as to be free from the performance of work, the 2021 legislation explained. Ontario Labour Minister Monty previously told CTV News the law was created in response to the increasingly blurred lines between work and home caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. The new rules in Ontario must apply to all employees, including managers and executives, and company policies must clearly outline expectations, if any, about communicating outside of working hours. All Ontario employers with 25 or more employees as of January 1st, 2022 must have a written policy. So we'll leave it there, but man, I support that 100%.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been supporting this personally.
Way before the pandemic?
since I started working.
Since I got like
once
you get a company email kind of account, or like, God forbid, you get you have a job where you have like a company phone.
Yeah. Like, at my work, I have a work cell phone, but I leave that at my office. And
that's smart.
And I worked from home a lot through the pandemic, but I would not answer that phone past 4:30. I would not look at my email past 4:30. It was over.
You got the self-control. Well, I have a few kind of like experiences and anecdotes to share. One is, I have like a very close friend who's a friend of yours as well. And he has a job where he's in kind of a managerial position. We were roommates for a while and good buddies. And I feel like this guy, he probably gets paid, for 35 hours a week or whatever, like his salary would be based on. This guy easily puts in 55 hours a week of work. He's like forever working on projects outside of business hours, answering calls, responding to text messages. And it's like, and I see the effects of it on him, because it's like he's driven to forever be doing that. And then you have like COVID, where people are now put at home and are working from home. So that kind of blurs the line between what's an office and what is your house. If you have, on top of that, if you work for a company that has offices around the country, time zones may be kind of all blurred. So instead of working your 9 to 5, you're kind of working, 7 a.m. till like 9 p.m. because of the different offices and stuff. I can see how like so many people can fall into the trap of just being forever working. And I can see some employers preying on that and taking advantage of it. And it's having the government kind of step in and just kind of get the back of the workers who may be preyed upon or involuntarily submit to working way more than they should. I like it.
Yeah, because it can kind of snowball, right? You can start off answering an email here or there. You see it come in and you're like, oh, I'm going to respond to that now. But then you start setting a precedent with your employer that you're available during those times. And now we have everything we need to fully work from home. Like before the pandemic, there was only some things that I could do at home. I could take my laptop home with me and there were some things I could do, but I couldn't do everything. I couldn't fully operate from home. But then when the pandemic hit, we made changes and now I'm able to do absolutely everything at home now. But I just kind of draw that line.
Yeah.
Unless there's something like, due the next day, or, I've got some kind of a pressing project that I'm working on where you just kind of have to bite the bullet and and put the extra hours in. Those things come up, but generally, if there's nothing pressing going on, I don't look at my work email or phone past 4:30.
Yeah. And it's not that they're saying like you cannot work outside of your hours. It's just simply saying that companies need to have a policy and be clear and transparent and have an agreement with their employees. And that's, that completely.
Yeah, and it's to protect the worker so that the employer can't fire you or, discipline you for not answering an email at 8:30 at night, or, so it just kind of gives some protection to the employee so that they can be free to have that work-life balance. Because over the long term, like, if your job is adding that much stress and extra hours into your life, you start to become unhappy. And if you're unhappy at your job, you're not a good employee, no matter how many hours you put in.
Yeah, that's well said. So in the long run, it may help employers as well. But I think just for
in the long run, for sure, it will.
For everybody, though, I think it just in an employee-employer relationship, it's just it's important to have a clear understanding of where that agreement starts and ends for when things really when push really comes to shove. But as far as it being a new rule, is this something government should get involved in?
I think so. I mean, we have government is involved in terms of
sick leave,
workplace rules, on many aspects of our jobs.
Yeah, there's a labor board.
Things that we can do and aren't allowed to do. And, that's totally normal.
Yeah.
And this is just a natural progression of that since the pandemic opened up this Pandora's box of how much work we're now capable of doing completely at home.
And just like when we said with the whole space thing, is like kind of like that was an example of the law like kind of taking a big step and kind of getting ahead of it. This is not so much getting ahead of it, but it's certainly the law is keeping up with the kind of the modern workplace, which is very connected to phones and technology and a home office and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I would say I can be critical of Canada, but I think we're 3 for 3 with the laws that we cherry picked.
The new laws are 3 positive changes, and the fourth change should be some type of an anti-Bieber Tim Hortons law. No more just generic drinks with Bieber's name slapped on it for no good reason.
Well, I say allow it, but it should be taxed and regulated as far as when they can have these promotions with people like him, and tax the hell out of it. Like if Bieber's getting $40 million for this awful coffee that like they got $6 out of us between the two of us just today to try this stuff.
Yeah.
I'd say like put a 20% tax on it or something and take that money and use it to fund, I don't know, any number of social initiatives that Canadians could benefit from.
I think so. Yeah.
Let's go out with one last story. This will be a short, I guess we're going to call this a crime in Canada. I'm going to roll the intro and then we'll get through this story.
This week in Crime in Canada.
Aaron, I've seen and heard stories of a lot of breakups. This one is unique in that it ended up in a courtroom, but not for the reasons you would ever expect, I guess, a breakup to end up in a courtroom. And I don't know if this is even a crime, but we're going to call this crime in Canada, or at least kind of a legal dispute in Canada. So there's a man in British Columbia that was recently ordered to pay his ex-girlfriend $862 after abandoning his furniture after a breakup. Let me tell you what this guy did. A man who abandoned several pieces of furniture at his ex-girlfriend's apartment after a breakup must pay for moving and storage costs, BC's Small Claims Tribunal has ruled. The decision centers on the sometimes awkward legal obligations that can remain between former romantic partners, even during a contentious separation. The Civil Resolution Tribunal heard Ruby Carolino and Shan Gao broke up in June 2021, and that Carolino took limited belongings with him when he left. Although he returned days later to pick up more of his things, accompanied by police and a friend, Carolino once again left behind a number of possessions, including a wardrobe, a coat rack, a floor lamp, a computer desk, kitchenware, a bed, and his mattress. Gao told the tribunal that they agreed Carolino's friend, identified only as K in the court decision, would come retrieve the rest of his possessions at a later date, and that she made numerous but unsuccessful attempts to rid herself of her ex's belongings. But despite repeated promises to collect Carolino's things, Kay eventually stopped responding to Gao's texts. The tribunal heard Gao ultimately moved everything into paid storage in August. Miss Gao texted Kay to provide details about the storage facility where she had placed Mr. Carolino's items, and to advise that they must be removed by September 7th, 2021. Tribunal member Kristen Gardner wrote, "There is no evidence before me that Kay responded to this message." Several weeks later, Gao had a lawyer contact Carolino through the courts and offered yet another chance to retrieve his things. When Gao finally disposed of the remaining items on October 8th, it had been just under 4 months since their breakup. Carolino told the tribunal he never wanted any of the leftover furniture and that they had made no such arrangement for it to be picked up, but Gardner was unconvinced. Based on Kay's text message with Miss Gao, I'm satisfied that Mr. Carolino appointed Kay as his agent to retrieve his belongings left in Miss Gao's possession. Kay failed to retrieve the items left with Miss Gao or arrange for their disposal. I find that Mr. Carolino is responsible for Kay's failure to do so, including Miss Gao's expenses relating to that failure. Even if Carolino no longer wanted his things, the tribunal member noted, he still would have been responsible for arranging their disposal. Gardner gave credit to Gao for upholding her legal obligation to safeguard her ex's things and for making reasonable efforts to keep Carolino informed of her plans for storing and disposing of them. She ultimately awarded Gao $862 for moving, storage, and disposal expenses, along with $150 in tribunal fees. Mm-hmm. That's kind of poetic justice.
Yeah.
I think this Gao is a sweetheart for doing all this for this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it would be hard. Like, you know, you live with this person and things that you own, it starts to get gray, you know, like of who really owns what, you know. So determining, you know, that's actually my mattress and box spring because I purchased that before we got together. But how long were they together, and at what point does some of this property actually belong to the two of them? You know, once they use it for so long, like I would have found that to, you know, not having all the details of the actual court proceedings, but you know, those are the kind of questions I would have been asking, like, well, is this property start to become both of your responsibilities to, you know, like a 50-50 situation, because that was the bed that you both slept in, even though he purchased it before you got together, or vice versa.
Yeah, maybe, but it seems pretty clear in what we see from that article. It seems pretty clear that they agreed who owned what, and Mr. Carolino even appointed Kay to collect these things. So it seemed like he agreed, like, those are mine and I'm going to try to get them. And since I can't, I'm going to get my buddy Kay to pick this stuff up. So I don't think there's a debate about ownership, but also I think there is that breakup. It must be a lot worse than we know, than that article makes obvious, because he goes to pick up his stuff and he brings with him a friend and the police. So, like, what is that? What is going on here? I'm just shocked that she took the steps to make multiple contact attempts and actually move his stuff into storage. I think she should have gotten extra, like, without knowing more.
Because there's the time also. If you put a dollar value on her time
of moving it, like, well, just
of moving it, and like that kind of effort and time that goes into that, like that should be also taken into account.
Oh yeah, like even if this weekend, if someone was like, I need to move a couple couches and lamps from my house to a storage locker, you know, can you help me? I'd be like, oh, like if it was a good friend, I'd agree. But I'd be like, man, there goes like a full day. I'm going to have to go get the U-Haul, go to their place, drive it down there,
Oh yeah,
move like with
no.
a dolly, like pushing this couch down this long hall to a storage locker.
Moving's the
It's
worst,
the,
especially during a bad breakup too. Like it's
forget that.
oh
And
God.
so if she had the storage locker for 4 months, a storage like to rent a storage locker, it's well over $100 a month. So that $862 probably goes just to those storage fees. She should get something for the pay, unless she hired someone to actually move that stuff out, which I can't imagine she did within that $862.
No, no.
Yeah. Anyway, what a strange story. It's interesting. Like so many court decisions are just public, if publicly available. If you know where to look and read the court decisions, every so often you stumble upon something bizarre like that. It's an interesting one. I just wish I knew the whole story, because there's definitely more to it.
Yeah, we just thinking like, you're going through a breakup and then it's like now I mean there's lots of breakups that end up in court, but just when you think, okay, the dust is settled on this thing, it's like, okay, now I'm being taken to court as well.
Yeah, for
And we're going to
goodness sake.
drag all this, through the legal system, over moving fees and all those types of things. It just gets so messy.
And do you think Mr. Carolino and Kay are friends anymore, or is he like, Kay, you prick? You said you'd get the lamp.
Yeah. I don't know. I would like to hear all three stories and put it all together.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking Kay, this guy, the friend, man, imagine like pawning that off on your buddy. Like, I got this horrible breakup to the point that I had to bring the police over there to get some of my stuff. I still have a bunch of stuff there. I need you to deal with her and collect that stuff. If someone told me that, I'd laugh in their face. My best friend in the world, I'd laugh in their face. I'd be like, I am staying far away from your breakup and your lamp and your bed. So.
Yeah, and I'm going to take you to space and kill you.
Let's end it with that.
All right. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. All right.
We've been through a lot. We have the least empathetic realtor in the world. Happens to be in Canada. We have 3 new laws that Aaron and I agree with. We have that interesting crime story. We have negative reviews to Biebs Brew coffee, and those reviews are unanimous. Unanimous. I was reading online. Everybody I've read had the same things to say as tastes disgusting. It's bland. Doesn't taste like French vanilla at all. I think they made mine wrong. If you go on Twitter, you see people write that, and then Tim Hortons write back like you should DM us. We would like more information on your experience. That sort of like corporate crap. Anyway,
yeah.
Let's
just another disappointment from Tim.
Yeah,
Hortons.
add that to the list, fools.
No surprise though. I kept the bar pretty low when I was tasting that coffee.
Yeah, well, they got $3 more out of you, so you can criticize foolish marketing, but you know what I'm a sucker for is any new product I have to try it. Like, I love Doritos. If Doritos came out with a new flavor every day, I would have to buy a new bag of Doritos every day.
That's where we differ. Like, if I wasn't doing this show with you and we didn't, and Tim Hortons wasn't such a continuous target on this show that we seem to have, I never ever would have tried that Biebs Brew.
Well, what if you go in a store and there's a limited, Lay's potato chips, limited edition, cotton candy flavored, maybe.
No, I'm not trying.
Maybe not cotton candy, but if there's a new flavor of chip, would you?
It would have to be a new flavor where I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that, the sound of that flavor.
If it was something,
and I already like those chips,
okay.
So
I'll try any. That's the difference. And if it was cotton candy Doritos, I'd be like, I have to try them.
No, I'm very selective about what I try because I'm,
Okay.
But I'll try anything at a restaurant, for the experience of being at a nice restaurant, and I'm very open-minded with my palate. But when it comes to major corporations that are just slapping random things on packages and just trying to get us to buy more of what they already sell, I'm not into it.
Just one throwback to your video. The employee who gave the negative review in the drive-thru, who kind of cautioned you about it, he said, you're like, did you try it? And he said, no, but I tried the shot. So
that goes in
yeah,
it.
so they take cold coffee, put ice, and then they take like a shot of like flavor and add it to it. I wonder if he just took a shot of, like did like a shot of like French vanilla syrup.
Yeah, I thought maybe like it had an espresso shot in it or something. Like, I'm not sure.
No, I watched them.
That's what it is.
I watched them make it. It looked like they had, there was a big like glass bottle, like almost like Italian soda, you know, where you like they add like the syrup into carbonated water or something.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like one of those, and they just dumped it in my coffee, stirred it once, and passed it to me. So I'd like to think that this guy has a shot glass there, and that's how he tried it. So
well,
shout out to
maybe
him.
he's working the back shift, and he's just got to get through the night.
Yeah, we've all been there. Luckily, there's new laws in Ontario that will help people in that position in some cases.
Yeah, but he's not at home. He's at his back shift,
Yeah.
so he's fully,
he's
fully at the mercy of his employer.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up with this, Aaron. Until next time,
Jordan. Until next time,
get a Bieber
get
belt
a not a Bieber. Get a not a Bieber.
I want to thank you for joining Aaron and I in our Keep Canada Weird discussion. But before we part here, I want to give some thanks. First, a big thanks to Aaron for sharing an evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. A big thanks to the internet's favorite cult leader, Unicole, who supplied the intro and outro voiceovers. But the most important thanks of all goes to all of you listening, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. But with that said, keeping this show alive is and has always been an uphill battle. So if you want to help take a bit of weight off the show's back, make sure you're listening on the premium feed. Not only does the premium feed make the show possible, it also gives you more of each topic than you'll find here on the free feed, as I'm adding exclusive content regularly. So for about the price of a cup of coffee, keep the show alive at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And with that said, I want to thank the newest subscribers of the premium feed. Kelly, Bonnie, Jill, and Cindy, thank you for going premium. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show but can't do it via a premium feed subscription, you can give me a hand by simply sharing this episode on social media and letting your like-minded friends know about all the great work Aaron and I are doing to keep Canada weird. If anyone listening has any story ideas or wants to give feedback on the show or to contribute a voice memo to be aired in an upcoming episode, you can do all that and more at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. Aaron and I hope to hear from you. But until then, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte. Copyright Jordan Bonaparte.